This is Nacho Libre, a 2006 film starring a much younger Jack Black, and the much-anticipated second feature film of director Jared Hess, the man who brought us Napoleon Dynamite just 2 years prior. People expected another quirky, awkward, and dry-humored movie with close to no plot, but instead what they received was a funny and heartwarming tale of an underdog fighting for a noble cause. To summarize the plot of the movie, Jack Black plays a young priest who is a cook at an orphanage. He feels for the children and is driven by love for both a romantic interest in the form of a nun and love as a caretaker for the orphans he's helping to raise. So in order to better their lives, he dons a secret identity as a masked luchador wrestler to earn money for the orphanage, all the while getting pushback from the very institute he's trying to help after his identity is exposed. The plot is a silly one, but definitely unique in both setting, characters, and storyline. It's really one of a kind. Except that it really wasn't. This is The Man in the Golden Mask, a 1991 French film that tells the story of a Catholic priest in charge of an orphanage that's struggling financially, and in order to improve the lives of the children the priest looks over, he dons a secret identity as a masked wrestler and ends up earning money for the orphanage while getting pushback from the very institute he's trying to help. This sounds very familiar, doesn't it? You can tell that these two films follow almost the exact same plot, but they were made 15 years apart and have vastly different tones. So then, what is it? Was Jared Hess just a fan of obscure French films and he decided to make a parody of one? You know, looking at Jared Hess, yeah, that could be the case, but it's not. Interestingly enough, Jared Hess was a fan of lucha libre culture and history for some time. And one story he found particularly interesting was that of Fray Tormenta, who was a luchador fighter who founded and funded an orphanage for over 23 years by wrestling. What set Tormenta apart from many other luchadors' insane origin stories, well, it was 100% true. Born in 1945, Sergio Gutierrez Benitez was the second youngest of 17 children, and from a young age, Sergio would be enthralled with lucha libre wrestling. And I guess if you haven't picked this up by now, this is a form of theatric wrestling where the wrestlers wear unique masks and don alternate identities. To really, really dumb it down, it's Mexican WWE. But honestly, that would be disrespectful to lucha libre wrestling because lucha libres have a deep, deep, deep history in Mexico, with it being officially founded in 1933, but with its roots being traced back to the mid-1800s. Anyways, Sergio was extremely fond of lucha libre wrestling and had always dreamed of becoming a masked luchador himself. He drew a lot of inspiration from two movies in particular. Now, I hope you're sitting down because it gets really meta here. Sergio was inspired by two movies called El Señor Tormenta and Tormenta in El Ring. Both of them were released in 1963. The plot should sound kind of familiar to you at this point. Can you guess? Well, I'll tell you. They follow a priest who runs an orphanage who dons a luchador mask and competes in wrestling in order to fund the orphanage. Seriously, there has been 4 movies with this plot. Did you know this? Because I didn't. Returning to our story, most of Sergio's early life was far from holy. By the time he was 22, he was in quite the bad spot. He was an alcoholic and a drug addict, but he knew he had to turn his life around. So he turned to the priesthood to do so. Sergio would find himself traveling to Rome and Spain to study theology, and he would teach philosophy for a few years at various Roman Catholic universities around Mexico. Eventually, he would become a secular priest, a priest who is committed to a specific geographical area to serve the community. And he would settle in the Diocese of Texcoco. I probably said that wrong. It would be here that he would remember his childhood dreams and favorite movies and live up to them, founding the Fray Tormenta's Children's Home, an orphanage with a familiar name that was the home to 270 children. Just like the movies, the orphanage was in need of funding, so Sergio embraced his destiny, donning a golden luchador mask and the name Fray Tormenta to compete in the local Lucha Libre wrestling circuit. But this proved not to be the moneymaker he thought it would be. In an interview with Slam magazine, Fray recalled that he was barely earning $20 a match in his early fights, and to top it all off, he faced opposition from the church. Just like the movies. The local bishop had instructed Fray to stop wrestling immediately, as it wasn't a priestly thing to do. And Fray agreed on one condition, that he would stop by the bishop's residence every week to collect the money to help feed the 270 orphans. To which the bishop responded, "Keep wrestling." Tormenta's popularity would grow. Word spread across the nation that Fray Tormenta was an actual priest, and it wasn't just a made-up piece of lore for his character. With Tormenta's rising popularity, he started to wrestle in larger and larger promotions, all the while earning more money for his orphanage. Competition wasn't as fierce as one would expect for the holy wrestler either. Tormenta's opponents were hesitant to fight him, not out of fear of his skills or even fear of suplexing a priest, but because of the fans. Many of his opponents have been on record saying that the fans of the matches, regardless of who they came to see, were very protective of the masked golden wrestler. The crowds would yell, "You can't fight a priest. You're gonna go to hell," while throwing tomatoes and coins at me when I would go against him, recalled fellow luchador Black Terry. Despite this, his fellow luchadors still had the utmost respect for him. They praised his cause and even sought him out for counseling and confessions after learning he was, in fact, a real priest. Tormenta would semi-retire in 2001, only fighting 3 more fights before his official retirement in 2012. But the Golden Masked Wrestler still lives on in the form of Fray Tormenta Jr., who is presumed to be one of the orphans who has taken up the holy mantle of the Holy Wrestler. Despite the fame, despite the wrestling in thousands of matches, and despite the money, Fray Tormenta has stayed true to his beliefs and duties. He still cares for the orphanage today, even training the boys on how to wrestle. To Sergio, his orphanage has been the biggest blessing in his life. He's proud of the children he helped raise over the years, and many of them have become successful in their lives, becoming lawyers, doctors, accountants, and priests, and many other productive members of a society. But let's be real, who's shocked that they turned out so good when they had a role model like Fray Tormenta? The real life Nacho Libre.